Hello, TradingView community. Welcome to my new analysis about silver. And with silver, there happened some major developments within the recent times that I have spotted within my analytics backend. And I analyzed the major underlying dynamics within my analytics backend. And with silver, there are currently important changes within the whole price action chart that are so important that they should not be underestimated in any cases, especially as silver already showed up with these heavy, severe, bearish declines within the whole structures and showed up with these heavy, severe, bearish waves towards the downsides. And these are some important dynamics here that should not be underestimated in any cases, especially when looking at the current dynamic within the whole global financial markets. It has to be mentioned that the DXY, the US Dollar Currency Index, is up and trending to the upside, especially also the bonds market with over 100 trillion market cap. The bonds market is increasing massively, and these are signs for silver to decline further within this whole structure, especially as the silver price already showed up with these heavy bearish dynamics as the bonds market and the US dollar currency index are trending towards the upside. These are important dynamics that are actually setting up a major bearish momentum development for the whole silver price action. And it has to be mentioned here. Silver pulled it back several times bearishly to the downside, always showing up with these heavy bearish declines towards the downside, penetrating the whole structure here, penetrating the remaining supports. And these are some crucial supports within this whole structure, especially as the more often the silver price actually penetrates these remaining supports here within this whole structure, the higher the possibility that a much larger, severe, continued momentum volatility spike towards the bearish direction sets up here. Now, silver continually bounced into this major 22.665 remaining support level, and this is such a important support level because once it is broken to the downside, once silver is setting up the verge breakout into the bearish direction below the momentous 22.65 support, this is going to activate such a bearish pressure, such long liquidations within the silver price that a reversal within this whole structure will not be possible anymore. Also, when looking at this whole ascending trend line, once this ascending trend line is broken towards the downside, together with the main remaining 22.65 supports, this will activate the massive bearish pressure towards the downside directions. Also, when looking at this major formational structure here, at this main formation that silver is forming now, this is actually a huge descending triangle formation, and such a descending triangle formation is setting up a bearish continuation towards the downside in almost all of the cases. And this is actually the formation that is going to set up the bearish direction breakouts with the overwhelmingly high possibility of above 100%. And this is actually the most important bearish setup dynamic that silver already is completing now, especially when looking at this whole wave count that is already completed within this whole descending triangle formation. Silver is setting up here the next bearish leg towards the downside. Also, when looking at this main high momentum bearish volatility curve towards the downside, this is such a severe high momentum bearish volatility curve that silver just pull it back from these important levels and show it upwards this high momentum bearish volatility curve. And this high momentum bearish volatility curve is likely to continue into the lower directions, especially with the completion of this gigantic descending triangle formation that will be completed within the next times, especially in this case, a major bearish volatility dynamic target can be projected onto the lower breakout areas once this whole descending triangle formation has been completed within the upcoming times. Also, when looking at the main 4-hour time frame perspective here, the major formation that silver is forming on the 4-hour time frame perspective is this highly crucial ascending wedge formation, and this ascending wedge formation is going to be completed within the next times, especially once this next push towards the downside is setting up here within the next times. This is going to activate this major ascending wedge formation towards the downside, especially when the DXY US dollar currency index and the bonds market are going to continue trending towards the upside. This ascending wedge formation will be so severe that this is going to activate huge bearish pressures to the downside. Also, when looking at this ABC structure, this actually was already the origin of the major bearish wave A towards the downside. This was such a bearish wave towards the downside that in this case there's a high possibility that this ascending wedge formation will be completed even faster than the price action goes. And once it has been completed, this will accelerate the bearish dynamics towards the downside in a heavily accelerated pace. And in this case, also a major bearish dynamic projection can be projected onto the major wave C, the bearish wave C, and this will also already be a double confirmation, a doublet bearish confirmation, firstly of this gigantic descending wedge formation, and secondly because of this ascending wedge breakout on the lower time frame perspectives. And this will be a doublet bearish confirmation that is going to accelerate the bearish pressures heavily towards the downside and show up with this heavy bearish downside dynamic to accelerate onto the lower breakout areas and to continue till no supports are reached anymore. And in this case, it has to be mentioned that especially once this whole descending triangle formation has been completed with the bearish breakdowns below the lower boundaries, below the main 22.65 area, this is going to accelerate the heavy bearish dynamics in such a manner that it is possible that there will be no reversal and the price action will just continue to move into the bearish dynamic directions, and that there will be no reversal, no indication of a bullish reversal. And especially once the main target zones of this whole structure have been reached, which will be a minimum of 19.015. Once these minimum targets have been reached and the price action heavily accelerates into these dynamics, also with the DXY US dollar currency index further trending to the upside, with the bonds market further trending to the upside. These are all gravestone indications for silver to decline further within this whole structure and to roast all the bulls that still have long positions open it here within this silver asset, that is going to roast all these net long positions which are still open within the silver price. And especially this will be a crucial dynamic to consider here within the next times. The only thing that could reverse this huge bearish dynamic perspective is when the open interest within the silver price actually reverses and there's a shift towards the upside within the open interest, within the silver open interest. However, this is currently not the case. The open interest in silver is declining more and more, it is falling more and more, and therefore more and more investors are getting more and more uninterested in investing into silver. And this is why this bearish dynamic is still holding on. And the only thing which could reverse this dynamic is when there's a major shift in the open interest. However, this is currently not the case. Therefore, the next dynamic that should be highly considered in this whole structure is the completion of this whole descending triangle formation. And once it has been completed, it will be important how silver finally reaches the major target zones and how it continues from there on, because there are two possible scenarios. One scenario is silver has the ability to reverse, and the second scenario is the bearish dynamic developments into the bearish momentum direction are so severe that silver will just continue till reaching much lower levels. With this being said, it will be a highly important dynamic to consider, and it will be great when you support my project further with a like, follow, and comment. Bye bye.